Desert Gardener, and today we're going to be tasting and reviewing all the sweet peppers that I'm growing for 2023. So I've got my tea, let's talk about that. So I'm growing 8 different varieties of sweet peppers this year, and some of them I'm growing for the very first time, some of them I've grown many times. So I thought I'd do something I've never done before on this channel, and that's taste them and let you guys know what I think. So I figured we'd start out with this little guy here. This is a Nata Pinot, and it's a variety of a jalapeno that has no heat. Now this one's a little smaller than normal. You have to remember I live in the desert, and it gets just over 100 degrees almost every single afternoon. So all my peppers are a little smaller than normal, but I think this will work out good for our test. So there's not a lot of seeds inside, but it is a thick-walled pepper, just like a regular jalapeno. But it's supposed to taste just like one without the heat. So let's give it a try. It does taste a lot like a sweet pepper. I do kind of taste that little bit of jalapeno flavor, but there is no heat at all. So I do like this a lot. And I do like how it's a very thick wall. Some sweet peppers, especially the ones I've been growing myself, have a very thin wall. Not a lot of seeds, which makes it easy to cut and cook with and stuff. So I do like this. This is definitely a good one. Now this is just a generic bell pepper. Seeds are very small in this one. Well, no, they're a little bit bigger on this side. But this would be your basic bell pepper, so I won't spend a lot of time on it since everyone knows what a bell pepper's like. It's a lot sweeter than the Nata Pinot. And it does have a very thick wall, which I also like. Not too many seeds. So I'm liking this a lot. I grow this one almost every year. Now this is a Cubanelle. I don't think I've ever grown Cubanelles before, but of course I've had them before. I've bought them at grocery stores and farmers markets, which is where I save the seeds. Now this one isn't fully ripe. You can see it's a little green, but it was the ripest one that I had at the moment, so I figured I'd give this one a go. Now, there's a decent amount of seeds in there. The seeds are much larger. This is a very thinner wall, not as thick as the other two. Kind of sweet, but it's a little bit more mild. It has a very mild taste, almost like a cucumber. Like it has very little of its own taste. But I do like it. So far, the Nata Pinot is, I think, my favorite so far. Now this is a Trinidad perfume. It's supposed to be similar to like a Trinidad scorpion, which of course is an extremely hot pepper. But this is a perfume pepper. It has a Scoville rating of about 100. So it's about as low as you could possibly get and still have some heat. Now it's very small, and I've grown these in the past, and sometimes I've had difficulty, extracting the seeds and putting it into some sort of meal or dish because they're just so small. It takes forever to clean and cut them because there's so little meat. Now immediately I can smell a very fruity smell. It smells a little like Lemon Pledge. It has a very lemony flavor, very fruity, and just a tiny bit of spice. which to me is my favorite type of pepper. Something that has very, very low heat, but just a little bit, just enough to get that little bit of spice on your tongue, but it's not so hot it's going to overwhelm anything. So I actually really like this. This is, I think, my favorite so far. A little difficult to work with, but taste-wise, I really like it. And it's definitely very fruity, has a very lemony taste. Now this one here is a Chinese giant. It's just a version of a bell pepper. Not a lot of seeds, but it's a very thick wall, like the bell pepper. Very similar taste to the bell pepper. I don't think I could really distinguish the difference between the bell and the Chinese giant. But like I said, Chinese giant is just a version of a bell pepper. So I actually am growing a few others: the lunchbox, the sour apple, and the Mexibel. Unfortunately, I don't have any ripe ones, so what I'm going to do is stop the video here and start it again once I get some ripe ones of those. But so far I'm really liking the Nata Pinot and the Trinidad Perfume. Those seem to be my favorite so far. The Cubanelle's a little on the boring side, and the bell peppers are good, but of course we all have bell peppers. So I'm going to pause this here and continue it when I have the rest. Okay, I'm back, and I have a couple of more peppers for you. This is a lunchbox pepper and a Mexibel. Now I was supposed to have a sour apple, but as you can see, my only sour apple plant isn't doing very well. It's very small and hasn't produced anything yet. In fact, I almost didn't transplant it from the seed tray because it was so small and puny. I really didn't think it was going to do much. But since it was my only one that sprouted, I went ahead and planted it anyway. It does have a few buds on it, so it might produce something later. But I'm not going to hold my breath, so I figured I'd just skip it for now, and we'd do the two that I got here. So this is a lunchbox pepper. It is a sweet pepper, and I've grown it many times before. This is probably my 4th year. So there's really going to be no surprises here for me. Now this one is actually pretty thick. Usually they're not too thick. They have a lot of seeds inside. In fact, so many seeds that I used to sell them on eBay. I may do that again because there's so many. So let's give it a taste. Now it has a very typical sweet pepper taste and bell pepper taste. So nothing strange, nothing out of the ordinary. It's very typical, and there's no heat whatsoever. So but it grows really well. It sprouts well, it grows well, it produces well. So it's a good pepper. Nothing special, but very, very good. So this is a Mexibel. Now, if you've ever been on any pepper forums on the internet, every so often there's people who will always ask, can you cross a bell pepper with a hot pepper? Well, yes you can, and this is it. In fact, this won an award a few years ago. It's also supposed to be not immune, but less likely to get certain diseases and stuff. So let's check it out. Now I tried to figure out what it was crossed with, a bell pepper, and what the hot pepper was, but I wasn't able to figure that out. If some of you know, maybe you can leave it in the comments. That's very nice. I really like it. It does have that bell pepper flavor, but there's a little bit of spice here. It usually runs about 100 to 1,000 Scoville, and of course a jalapeno is usually 2,000 to 8,000. So as you can tell, it's not very hot. In fact, this one has almost no heat at all. But I've had a couple in the past that were so hot that I couldn't even eat them. So they vary quite a bit. But I do really like this pepper a lot. It definitely has a bell pepper taste with a little bit of spice to it. Well, unfortunately we couldn't get the sour apple. Maybe I'll talk about that another time. Now, what were my favorites out of all of them? Well, I definitely think for flavor, it's the Trinidad perfume. But as I mentioned earlier, it's just so small, it's tough to deal with. And my next favorites, probably the Nata Pinot and the Mexibel. I will definitely be growing both of those next year. So, I hope you found this helpful. If you did, all I ask is that you like, and if you want to see more, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.